Hey Canucks fans, welcome to Clay's Canucks commentary for Wednesday, January the 30th. I'm Clay Emo, I'm at Canuck Clay on Twitter, I'm at Clayton Emo on Instagram. I'm the founder of the GLCPC, the Good Looking Canucks Positivity Club, and this is my Canucks take, all in one take. The Canucks don't play again until Saturday. They resume their schedule and they kick off a 4-game road trip by battling the Colorado Avalanche, a team that they're in a fight for a playoff position with. And I'm still on a high from the All-Star weekend and my experiences there. But I've been finding ways to pass the time. Last night, I went over to my good buddy Shahid Devji's house. He is the creator of a relatively new podcast called Towel Power. I encourage you to check that out. And we recorded an hour's worth of footage. It felt like 10 minutes, but we were just two guys with the gift of gab, I guess. And I look forward to that coming out later this week, and I'll be sure to share that. Thank you, Shahid, for having me over. We had a lot of fun talking Canucks and talking about my All-Star experience. But I'm sure you're sick of that by now. What I want to talk about today, as we look to fill this week, is I want to reference a great article that I saw in The Athletic yesterday by who we call Boy Genius, Harman Dial. And what he talked about was Bo Horvat, and not only his offensive deployment, but his defensive deployment. Talked about could he be a future Selke candidate, whatever it may be, and a really great detailed look at Bo Horvat. But one thing that really stood out to me was when Harman listed all of Horvat's wingers for this season. And when you take away, the 3 or 4 shifts he's had with Pettersson and Besser, when Travis Green needs to load up a line to get some goals, it's not pretty. The 5 wingers that he has played with, Brock Besser was at the top in terms of minutes, and that's because Pettersson has missed 11 games this season, right? So the top 5 were Besser, not in order, but Besser, Virtanen, Eriksson, Roussel, and Goodobin. So again, that's Besser, Virtanen, Roussel, Eriksson, Goodobin. And then it goes Sven Berchi, who's catching up quickly since he's coming back from injury. And then you have guys like Schaller and Granlund and Mott, and then 2 guys that aren't even here anymore, Sam Gagner and Brendan Leipzig. So if you take, and Harman made this point too, if you take Brock Besser off that list, there's not a lot of elite talent that Bo Horvat's been playing with. Yet he's still doing well. He's on a 60 to 65 point pace for the season. And Harman's point was, imagine how he could be a 75 and 80 point player with stronger wingers. So I guess when you look back at the first 50 games of the season, and more importantly, when you look ahead to the last 32 or 30 or so, is yes, Horvat's played a lot with Besser because when Pettersson was out, Travis Green would put Besser with Horvat. And he's played a lot with Jake Virtanen, and they haven't been that productive, actually. I want Jake to be more productive. As you know, I'm a big Virtanen fan. But that combo, despite what you think it would be, 2 relatively big bodies who can skate, Virtanen bigger than Horvat, obviously, but Horvat's not a small guy or a slouch by any means. I thought they'd be more effective, but they haven't been. Godobin's been in and out of the lineup, and then he's been paired with Eriksson, and he's been paired with Roussel, often Roussel and Virtanen at the same time. So not a lot of, good guys, good loyal soldiers for the Canucks, but not a lot of elite talent there. So I guess the question is, who should Bo Horvat play with going forward for the last 30 games of the season for this run to the playoffs, so to speak, the stretch run? We know that Brock Besser will be paired with Elias Pettersson. It makes no sense to break those guys up. And they obviously need a winger, whether that's Josh Levo or whether that's, a Sven Berchi or Nikolai Goodobin, whoever that may be. But let's say, for instance, you can put any winger with Pettersson and Besser for the purpose of this conversation. My question to you is, who do you think Horvat should play with? Now, if I went with my favorite players, I'd put him, or in theory, or my first reaction would be to put Jake Virtanen on his right and Sven Berchi on his left. I like the Berchi and Horvat combination. They've shown chemistry over the past couple years, especially with Brock Besser last year. But again, we can't take away Besser from Pettersson, but that's why you think you might put Berchi actually on that line. But regardless, you're not going to put, Besser with Horvat. So maybe you go Berchi and Horvat. And they've shown chemistry. Berchi's a good, skilled winger. And then you have a bit more size and a bit more grit with Jake Virtanen on the right side. So that's one option, and that's who I'd like to see. Then the trickle-down effect. If your fourth line is still Beagle, Schaller, Beagle, Mott, and Eriksson, then your third line, really, you have Brandon Sutter in the middle, and you have a choice of a Goodobin, of a Granlund, and Eriksson like that. If you put, like I said, Horvat with Berchi and Virtanen. So that's one option. If you want more offense, then you put Horvat between Berchi and Goodobin. You know, one guy would have to play on the right, but Godolphin can do that. And then you have then not the biggest line ever, but you certainly have your most skilled combo there, aside from, again, Pettersson and Besser. So maybe if you want more scoring, you put Horvat with Berchi and Godolphin. If you want more of a, you don't call it a matchup line, or maybe it is a matchup line, or maybe you know, more of a defensive minded line. You know, Eriksson has shown that he can play with Horvat, so maybe you go Eriksson and Roussel, or Eriksson and Granlund, or Roussel and Virtanen. Whatever it is, you know, there's all those combinations as well. But if Horvat's your second line center, now you have Sutter and Beagle back. They can be your matchup guys down the road. And we saw, you know, obviously the Canucks went almost 2 months without both of those guys. So if you put Horvat as your second center, second scoring center, then you want him with guys who can score. So I guess in a perfect world, I would put him with Berchi and Virtanen, or Berchi and Godolphin. For some reason, I don't think Godolphin and Virtanen would work. I think Travis Green, I think he'd be scared of that line defensively, quite frankly, if it was Horvat, Godolphin, Virtanen. Horvat's being good defensively, but Godolphin not so great. That's not a strength of Virtanen. He can skate quickly, but he's not the best, you know, back checker or best defensive-minded player. So it depends what you want. If you want all offense, you can go Berchi and Godolphin. If you want a balanced line, you can go Berchi with Virtanen, or Godolphin with Virtanen. No, we're not going to do that. Berchi with Virtanen, and then I think those are your two best choices. You could. He's also played a lot. You've seen him with Roussel and Virtanen, because Travis Green seems to like those two wingers on Horvat's side as well. So let's talk about those three options. I haven't even talked about Josh Leivo actually, but I have a feeling that Josh Leivo is going to wind up with Besser and Pettersson, or he's going to wind up further down the lineup, maybe on the third line instead. So of those three combos, then let's give you these three combos to play with Horvat. Berchi and Virtanen, Berchi and Godolphin, or let's go Roussel and Virtanen. Of those three choices, what pairing do you like the most to flank Bo Horvat on either side going forward? So just something to think about. Leave a comment below. I'd love to read, react, and reply as always. Subscribe if you'd like to. Like this video if you'd like to. Got only a few more days. I think the Canucks start practicing tomorrow actually, so we have more stuff to talk about. But only 3 more days until the Canucks kick off the last part of their season, their stretch run, as they take on Colorado on Saturday night. Have a great day. God bless, and go Canucks go.